Okay, thanks for joining us this evening. For me, it's evening. We're going to run through our P6-Calculator today. I'm Nicole Jardin, joining you from Calgary, and I also have Dan McMillan on from Calgary as well, and he's our technical resource. So if there are some different ideas, questions that come up, you're in good hands with Dan on the line. So let's touch on what P6-Calculator is. So I always say to the team that P6-Calculator's one of our software tools that doesn't get a lot of love in the sense that it does so much, but it's not always easy to show it. So in the last few months, we've been plugging in all the great features that we've rolled out with different clients. So I'm going to show you some ideas on the sorts of things that we put in the tool. Now, we put things into the tool that our clients need. Okay, so if a client wants a field to do new calculations, we've been able to accommodate that with P6-Calculator. If a client wants different data to be available, not just at the resource level or not just at the activity level, but up at the project level, we've been able to add those sorts of things in. So when you're watching today, you need to think, okay, well, that's not exactly what I do in P6, but I do something similar. So it's really very much a food for thought sort of webinar that we're going to walk through. So the common struggles is that we've seen with our clients is they don't always use as much of P6 as they want to because maybe it's too hard to take care of the data. So to maintain your whole resource dictionary, or to maintain your costing, or to get certain fields on different reports. So as a result, they don't necessarily have all the consistency, all the data in one place. So now they have to spend more effort, maybe in a reporting tool, grabbing data from all sorts of different places. So when we've worked with different clients in drilling space, the drilling space, or oil and gas, or turnarounds, or electrical utility type clients, we've been able to enhance the way P6 works considerably, even with contractors. So we've done some special costing, multi-currency with a few of our clients, both manufacturers, contractors. So we've been able to take what they've got in P6, but allow them to do much more with it. So that's really been a big win for our clients because now they're getting more value out of that software. They don't have to have side Excel sheets, side databases, doing all sorts of other data manipulations. So what we've been able to do is made a lot of things easier to take care of in P6, easier to administer, easier to develop the projects in the way that they want to, with more data all in one place, which of course brings that consistency that I was talking about at the beginning. So many of our clients that we've done this sort of work with, they're integrated with other systems. Now you don't have to be, but many of them are. And as a result, they've been able to do, to streamline their business processes, saving a lot of time, saving a lot of costs to the projects. So what I'm going to show you today are different ideas of things that you can do in P6 with the add-on utility called P6-Calculator. Now, the way we sell P6-Calculator, because it ties onto a database, it's not per user. So it's really per database, and it's how many functions you want to use. Okay, so we have different levels of our packages. Standard package for maybe a small group, maybe 5 to 10, 20 projects maybe. And then we've got professional, which is for a larger subset of projects, and then corporate. Okay, that's how we sell it. So it's really an add-on to your whole database. And I think in a minute, you're going to start to see why when I start to run through some of the different ways that you could use P6-Calculator. So let me ask a quick poll question. and then we'll jump into looking at the tool. So what parts of P6 do you use? So what we find is everyone uses it for scheduling. Some people use it for scheduling and resource, and some people use it for schedule, resource, and cost. Okay. Now, a few years ago, Oracle had done a bit of a survey with some of their clients, and what they found was 100% used schedule, maybe 60 to 70 used schedule and resource, and only another 30% really used all of it. Okay, so what you're going to see is some of the reasons you could start to use all of it as well with some of the tools I'm going to show you. I'll show some of the results, so thanks for those who wanted to participate in the poll. And if you're curious about some of the answers, we do put the polls up on our website, so you can go look there to also see, you know, what have other people answered to these questions over the year. So we do put those things up, so you can get access to that. Now, another big thing is streamlining updating. Okay, so we tend to spend a lot of time building out our schedules, but updating can become a problem. And that can also be another deterrent to putting in resources and costs, because it might be more data to manage. So that's where integrations certainly can be interesting. So maybe I'll ask another quick poll question, and just let me know whether you are integrated or not in your P6 environment. Okay, so this is something we do a lot of because we've got programmers on our team and we've had them from the beginning. It is something that Emerald does do a lot of, and we've done many SAP, Maximo, JD Edwards, Oracle Financials, Fusion, etc., etc. It's a long list. So I'll share for those who decided to vote. And again, it's just something to keep in mind with some automations. It can be something that's more interesting to explore. Now, the key thing then is with a better central hub of data that you've got in P6, with calculators supporting a lot of your functions and efforts, you can then start to use this data for the extended team. And more of our clients are using different tools like Tableau, Power BI, business objects to get that data out. Okay, so if those are things interesting to you, definitely attend our P6 Reporter webinar, because we go into more depth on the types of things you can get out of P6 into other reporting systems, your standard corporate system. So our clients have seen a lot of benefits to using P6-Calculator, and we've deployed it in many environments, from contractors, manufacturers, right up to owners with multiple locations around the world. So how does this embed it in P6 from a user perspective? Okay, so the user sees all of calculators output. Our clients, if they didn't know they had it, wouldn't necessarily. So we use fields that are we add fields to P6 to help you get the calculations that you're looking for. So it's generally calculations. It also can be automations, and I'm going to show you some automations today. Like, I'm going to show you how we can do auto logic and auto scheduling. So I'm going to show you that. And it can be things like rolling data up. So taking data from the lowest level, like steps or expenses, resource assignments, up to activities, up to WBSs, and up to the project level, okay? And or down, okay? So we could also push stuff down. I'm going to run through some examples. And again, you got to kind of think that this is a food for thought kind of webinar. So I'm going to show you ideas. And what I want you to think of is, I have these sorts of things that cause us a lot of work. and maybe calculator could fit the bill. Okay, so throw those questions at us and we'll tackle them as we go. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the software. And close that, get this open. I'll be in there in just a sec. Okay, I think I'm good to go. Now, what I'm showing you is I'm going to show you P6 client, but everything I'm showing you works just as well in the web version as well, okay? So if your team is using the web version, don't think that you can't use P6-Calculator because I'm showing you the client. Okay, so let me run through some of the examples and give you kind of the lay of the land of what I'm going to show you today. And I'm going to use a subset of projects. Now, this example is a drilling example, but it doesn't have to be limited to a drilling example. So it could be a major piece of equipment like a crane that you're trying to monitor and manage. In this example, it's a drilling rigs that we're trying to manage. Now, the drilling rig is a key controlling factor in this example. So a rig can't be at two places at once. So we're showing the rig, we're showing the geographical location, and then we're showing the different wells that that rig is planning to drill, okay? So we currently have an order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I've opened those projects, so I can go into the activity window and I can see those projects in here. Okay, so right now it's rig 1, and then projects C01, C02, 3, 4, 5. Now, let me scroll over a bit. So the construction is, of course, when the rig is at the job site and doing the work. Okay, so that's what you're seeing here. And it's pretty much linear in this example. So one of the things that happens a lot when you're working this kind of space is the order could change, or you might be asked to use more than one rig. Okay, so right now we're doing things one after the other, but they might, the owners or the management team might say, let's see what it looks like if we use 2 rigs, or if we get 3 rigs going. So there's a lot of changes that you might experience, especially when you're planning things out and when you're in, you know, different economic environments. Things could change considerably. So you want that ability to change things quickly. Now, if I change the order of the wells that I'm going to drill, I would probably have to start breaking logic and changing the logic, etc. So one of the things that we built for this kind of client is the ability for us to tag that a project is supposed to have a certain priority, okay? So in this case, I've got 1 to 5, and I've got a priority. Now, in this example, I'm using a date, kind of a target date, if you will, as the priority. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It could be anything. Now, in this example, it's a date that's setting the priority, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that if I change the priority, it's going to change the order automatically. It's going to redo all the logic automatically. And it is also going to rearrange some key activities. So for example, in this example, we have a mobilization that takes 2 days. It could take 5 days. It could take longer. And that mobilization is only needed on the first project in the sequence. Okay, so when you bring a rig in, you have to transport it up to the job site, and you've got to then mobilize it on each well as you move it. but this is the major mobilization, okay? Now that activity is only needed on the first well. You're going to see that we've also automated that concept to only have that activity on one of these projects in that particular location. In this case, it's Calgary. Okay, so I'm going to make some changes. And before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my screen so that you can see the activities and the projects at the same time. So as I make these changes, I'm going to want you to look at both of these screens. Okay, so the first change that I want to do, I'm going to say, instead of doing project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to rearrange that order. Now in this case, I'm going to use a date to let the tool know that I'm rearranging the order. So I'm going to put this one second. And I'm going to put number 5. I'm going to put it before. So I'm going to put it somewhere in March is sort of the target. Okay, so like what would be appropriate? March, mid-March would be the target. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Now, this particular field is sorted by this, but if you've used P6, you know that the actual projects and the order on the screen are not necessarily going to be controlled by this particular field. Okay, so what is going to happen is a few things. P6-Calculator now is looking at this logic, and it's going to start to rearrange the logic so that the drilling of project 2 is going to go to project 1. So it's going to rearrange the order of the logic. We just move this over so you can see that. It's going to start rearranging the order of the logic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask it to start refreshing the screen. And we should start to see some of that happening. Okay, there, it's already done it. Okay, so it switched the mobilize activity automatically, put it to project C02, and it's rearranged the order of the logic. Okay, now it's a bit hard to see. Let me move that over. And you see the logic, and all that I need to do is just reschedule it so that it picks up that change and switches the dates. So that is 2 of the projects. Now I also rearranged C0, so it also rearranged the order of this sorting. Now I'm going to explain that in a second. Okay, so it's sorting by the date and the geography. So when I'm producing my reports, it knows that we're starting in the Edmonton region, then in the BC region, and now the Calgary region is last. So that was automatically happening because not only were we rearranging the logic automatically for you, and I'll scroll over, you can see that I also have the logic for project 5 coming before the logic for project 4. Okay, so it is doing the logic automatically, and it also switched the order of a code that we have here on the project. So if you've ever worked in an area where it's very dynamic, like also in a turnaround could be another example, where you might have 20, 30 work phases. Let's say you're opening up equipment, and let's just use valves as an example. Perhaps you have 20, 30, hundreds of valves that you have to take out during a turnaround. You know that you don't always have a particular order that you need that done in, but you do know that you're going to do them in some sort of priority. So you could have it auto rearranging your code. In this example, it's a project code, but it could be an activity code. So this code also got rearranged automatically. As you saw, hopefully you saw that. The Calgary got put on the bottom, the Edmonton bumped up, as did BC. and then the order of this code rearranged. And that is what's controlling the order in my activity window. So this in and of itself can save you hundreds of hours in a given month, because we're doing the logic. We're also changing the order of the coding, so it's easier to manage, administer, so you're not scrolling up and down and all over the place. And it also is refreshing the way the reporting would come out. Okay, so it's much easier to manage your meetings and your communication. Now, let me do some more changes so you can see it. Now that hopefully you have a bit of an idea of what to look for, let's do some more changes. So another change that could happen is I want to change the rigs. So currently I have all of this, all of these projects, all of these wells being drilled by one rig. But the management might say, well, let's actually see what it looks like if we put two rigs. So in this example, I'm going to take these projects that I have here in Calgary, and I'm going to give them to a new rig. So this is actually something you can do quite easily in P6, is I can highlight all the activities that have the rigs on them, and I can do a swap in the resource. And I'll just filter by this rig, and I can swap it out for a similar resource. I'm going to switch. I'm going to give all those projects that I have open, which are these C1s, I'm going to give them to a second rig. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and it's going to switch them. So I move that out of the way, and you can see that I reassigned them to rig 2. Now, if you've used P6, you'll know that having the resource ID down here, it doesn't show it up on the project like this. But you want to be able to know which project is assigned to which rig. Okay, so in this case, we actually have a utility in P6-Calculator that's also going to do, it's going to find the main resource. In this case, it's the equipment resource, and it's going to reassign it as an activity code as well as a user-defined field. Okay, so this is part of P6-Calculator where I can grab a specific resource and make it into a user-defined or a code. Okay, so I'm showing you both because we can do either one. Now, not only that, let me just refresh it because it's going to update it. And let me just give it another minute. And once it's updating it, it's also going to push it up here to the project level so that you can see it when you're running various reports at the project level. Now it's also changing the code. So you're going to see this code change as well. So it's doing quite a few things, so that's why it's probably taking another minute longer than I was expecting. And once it does it, it should refresh the screen. There it goes. Okay, so it's starting to rearrange it. You see how it's changed the screen? So it's just redoing a lot of things here. So it's also changing the logic. It's got a few things to do. Okay, awesome, it did it. So it found that resource ID, it created a user-defined field and a code, and the last thing for refreshing, as you can see, it's changed the screen, and yeah, it's also put the code here and changed the order and changed the screen. So if I had to do all those things manually, changing the logic, creating these codes, filling it down, you'd be watching me do it for at least, I would guess, half an hour. Okay, so this is so much faster, and it does it automatically. So we use the technology that we've built over the many, many years for various tools to automate functions and to save you time. Okay, so it makes good sense to look at these sorts of things when you're doing something often. If you just do something once a month for 5 minutes, automating it doesn't bring a lot of value. But if it's something you do regularly, like on a daily basis or weekly basis, and you have multiple schedulers doing it, automation can save you not only a lot of time and cost, but it can save you also accuracy, okay? Because changing the logic, you could make mistakes. Doing fill downs, you can make mistakes. Okay, so I showed you a few things there. So those were auto, just to recap, so it was auto taking a resource to make codes and user-defined fields, and then taking those codes and or user-defined fields up to the project level, okay, which they don't do automatically, okay, so that's one of the roll-up features that I mentioned during the slides. And then it's doing an automatic code creation. Okay, so let me show you that code again. So again, that code is changing automatically. So these projects were under Rig 2 before, under Calgary, under Rig 1. Now they're moved into Rig 2. Okay, and again, the order is based on the priority that we've got here. So that's a lot of heavy lifting, and this saves a lot of scheduler time. Okay, so let me show you some other ideas and things that we've done with P6-Calculator. So let's touch on dates and flags. Okay, so I'm going to use two different layouts here to show you the idea of dates and flags. Okay, so I'm using the same projects. I could have opened some others. It wouldn't really have made a difference. So in this set of projects, we have a key in-service date. Okay, so lots of you must have milestones on your projects, whether it's to put electrical into production, or oil and gas in production, or handing over different areas of your project, different floors perhaps, different commissioning. We always have milestones we're targeting. Now, often you have commitments that you've made that you want to monitor against. And you can use baselines, of course, but a lot of our clients like to show them in their Gantt chart. So in this example, we have the current that P6 is scheduling, but we also have two other commitments that were made. And I've just shown them in different colors so you can get the idea of the sorts of things you can do in P6. So one is for our budget. So we might have put a budget together with a certain date promised for this C01 project. And we might have done a scenario at some point in time during the year, and we had a different date that we promised. And currently you can see here we're quite late in the in-service date being calculated by P6. Now, not only do we have those visibly in our Gantt, but sometimes you'll get asked, well, how many days late are we? Okay, so that's where we have these calculations automatically taking place. In this case, comparing the three different milestones and showing the different variances with a visual. So in this case, a stop sign because we're late, as well as a variance. Okay, and these are the variances here currently. So you can see not only are we showing them at the activity level, so that can be good for certain reports, but we're taking those same dates and we're putting them out here into the project level. So that's what we would call an automatic roll-up that we're doing, because this is much more easily communicated with a management team than digging into activities and showing them all of this stuff on these Gantt charts. Okay, so it's happening automatically. So how do you know it's happening automatically? Well, here, hopefully you can see the timing, but let me go ahead and reorganize these projects again one more time, just so you can see that in action, and then you should see these change as well. Okay, so the way that I did the reprioritization and the automatic logic was by changing the order. So let's just say I'm going to do project 1, 2, 5, 4, and I'm going to move 2 last. So I'm going to say it's going after project 4. So I'm going to redo that. Now it's going to go back and reschedule everything. And again, it might take a minute because I have a fair bit going on, but it should be a little less because I'm not switching the rig, which also contributed to the complexity. So it's going to go out and it's going to reschedule. It's going to redo the logic, I should say. Let's let it do that first. And then I can reschedule it. Okay. Now some of you may be familiar that we can have it automatically schedule certain things. So that's another option that you can have just to make it easier and have it reschedule. And I think what I'll do is also just go like this and bring this over so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so I think it actually did it, and I think I'm actually looking on the wrong one. Just a second here. Make sure I'm looking at it correctly. What did I actually do? I moved to later, right? I should have been watching the values on here and I wasn't. So, Dan, did I do it right, or has it come up and I'm just not looking at it correctly? It could be. Because I should expect it to go later. I should expect this one to move later. And yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay, so it's rearranged it and it's recalculated the different dates and it updates it here. Okay, so that's what you're expecting to see, is some changes and recalculations. So again, the value that comes into mind, it's huge value for the reporting side of it. Okay, you can streamline your reporting significantly in doing this kind of work. Now, another way you could also look at this to see it a bit clearer is I can take the filter off that's in this screen, and I could also just change a duration. So that might be another way for you to see it a little bit more clearly on project C1 in this case. And I can just for the sake of simplicity, I'll just make this activity longer. Oops, sorry, I'm not typing in the right place. There we go. So I can also make this activity longer, which of course is going to push the milestones related to it. So I'll save that and I will also reschedule. And as you would expect, it's going to push things later. And then this is going to recalculate the variances. Okay. And since we're pushing it later, in this example, you expect things to get worse in terms of the variances. So if you look at the variances over here, I'll keep refreshing it and we should see some impacts. Okay, there we go. So we saw this go from, I think it was 116 to 136, and this one got worse as well. Okay, so that's automatically getting rolled up. If I scroll back over here, from the lower level values that are getting calculated as a result of this going longer, which pushed this out and of course made us later. So we have lots of clients using this sort of feature, not necessarily exactly in the same manner, but this sort of idea is huge, and bringing it out to the project level, huge, so that they can report much more readily, okay? And it's not just a variance on the end date in this case. So these are key milestones somewhere in your project that are not that easy to report on up at the project level that we're running this on. Okay, that gave you some more food for thought. We've got lots, so let me touch on a few more and run through some more ideas. Let's look at a calendar. Okay, so I'm going to look at a calendar one, and I think I'm actually going to open a different project to do that one. Okay, so some of you, I'll go ahead and open that layout, but I will switch projects. So some of you might have special calendar requirements that you run into. So in this example, I'm going to touch on two that we've bumped into over the years more than once. So we have certainly sometimes where we have projects where we have wildlife restrictions. So it could be things like caribou or certain owls or bird species, etc., that migrate through the area that you're running your project in, and your team is not allowed to disturb them. So some of your activities may not be allowed to take place at that time. Okay, so I'll go ahead and open these projects and I'll explain the way that you could model this very easily. So what we've done in this project is we've got some activities that we have said could have wildlife restrictions on them. They don't necessarily have them because it could depend on times of year, etc. So we've identified this in the template that we built for the drilling. So these ones could get wildlife restrictions, and these ones could get weather restrictions. So a weather restriction might be road bans. So in where we live, because it gets cold at certain times of year, and we have concerns about heavy equipment on the road, we get road bans. So we have times where we are not allowed to do certain things, including transporting heavy equipment. So you might have a calendar that you want to build to show those sorts of restrictions. So for example, if I open this one up, let me see where I put them in. Maybe I put them in 2022. Let me use the wildlife one instead. Okay, so you can see here that I've got a non-work, meaning no work will progress in November or December because of the wildlife restrictions. So what that lets me do is I can put in a flag at the project saying, yes, this project is going to be subjected to wildlife restrictions. And maybe this second project as well will be subjected to wildlife restrictions. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to ask P6-Calculator to go and find those activities in the project that have the true on it, in this case, these ones here, and go ahead and change them automatically, okay? So that way I don't have to open all the projects and I don't have to start changing the calendars. This is going to do it automatically. Okay. So again, if you've been in that kind of work where you've got these special calendars that come into place sometimes, but not others, this can save you a lot of time. Okay, so it's done it. It's gone ahead and it's switched these calendars and the B2 project as well, these ones, but it didn't change B3, it didn't change B4. And of course, to see the impacts of that, you just reschedule your work and it will go ahead and it will make the changes appropriately. So it just moved things out of the work zone because of those impacts. So again, just a small thing, but if you have to do that on hundreds of projects and hundreds of activities, this can save you a tremendous amount of time, okay? And so just another small little utility that we've deployed for our clients that save a lot of time. Okay, I think I have time to show you one more. So I'm going to show you some of these counters that we've got. So I'm going to go ahead and open up another layout that does some counting. And I think I'm going to switch back my view just to a normal view and show you that one this way, just because it's got a big field here and it'd be a bit hard to read it if I scroll back and forth. So let's look at one of the counting ones. So we can go ahead and use any of these projects. I'll go ahead and open the top one. And you can see some of these other features that we've done. Auto archiving, auto resource rollups, auto loop detection, scheduling, auto counting, which is the one I'm going to show you. And I will do a webinar probably in January to go through auto forecasting and auto exchange rate. If you do multi-currency, okay, that one's a webinar in and of itself, okay. So that one will be coming up. So if you're interested in doing more costing, that one would be a good one to attend. So let me go through this one as an example. I'm going to open up the project. So we have lots of clients who use P6 for turnarounds with work orders or for maintenance with work orders, often tied to other systems like Maximo, SAP, as I mentioned, JD Edwards, Oracle Fusion, Oracle Financials. Those are a few coming to mind, and we've done many more, okay? So in that situation, you're receiving work orders from another system, an asset management system typically, and they're coming into P6. Now let me go ahead and switch to the auto counting layout. And that way it'll make it a bit easier to understand. So it's a very simple utility. In this example, we're looking at how many work orders we have in here, and it's counting them and it's applying it at the upper level, okay? So we have a very small project in this example. So instead of actually adding a work order, I think what I'll do is I'll reduce the work order numbers in this case. So we should see 1, 2, 3, 4 rolling up to the upper level, okay? So it's counting them and it's going to update the data here. So lots of our clients want various statistics. So this work order number is a statistic and it's counting it, giving you a total so you can do all sorts of different things with it. So now you could count how many work orders were completed this week, how many work orders were started this week, how many were canceled, or other things that you might do with statuses from other systems. So this starts to bring all sorts of dynamic new functions that you can't do that easily if you don't have something that's doing some of this heavy lifting for you. Oops, you know what? It's my fault. I forgot to tell it to actually do the function. Sorry. We have some functions that go automatically and some we can invoke manually. So in this case, I'm telling it to go ahead and run the analysis. So sorry about that. I missed turning it on, and should do it pretty quick. You can see some of them could be automated. So it's automatically doing it. In some cases, we actually tell it to go ahead and run it. So that's what we're doing in this example. So just give it another second. And it should update this for us if I did it right. I think I did it right. So we should see the list as well as the statistic update for this one. There it goes. Okay. So it did it. It brought it down to 4 as we expected. It kept the list and it updated it. So now we've got the proper list. And it also let me know that it finished. Okay. And it also let me know the last time I ran it, because you can see I didn't run it most recently. So this would let us know that this could be stale information. So this sort of thing is something we do a lot with our clients as well. Now, it's not always work order counts. It could be a list of upcoming resources. It could be an upcoming list of geographical areas you're working in or equipment numbers. It could be a variety of things that you're interested in seeing rolled up from the bottom. Okay, so that just gives you some food for thought. So that's another sort of utility that we've built a lot and deployed for clients. Auto scheduling, auto archiving. So if you have work orders coming in from another system, you know, there's a point in time where you don't need them in P6 forevermore. So we can auto get them out. So it deletes them. It first tags them and deletes them. So we've got lots of little utilities that we've built over the years. And again, just keep joining these webinars and you'll see more and more of them. And we have mini clips on our website for quite a few of them. But if there's something you want to know specifically, it's good to reach out, because that's the best way, because these are just different ideas. Okay, so we have some clients that do auto scheduling every night, especially if they've got an integration that runs every night, brings in new data, and we want to update the data date. Okay, so we do auto scheduling. But if you try and schedule and there's loops in the schedule, it won't work. Okay, so this is another little utility that we've built to show if there's a loop in the project. So it lets you know that there are some loops, and you got to go fix those before you can see the latest and greatest scheduling information. Okay, so this can be super handy, especially if you have lots of projects and you've got lots of schedulers. And let's say your team has to schedule all the projects every Monday or every Friday. Okay, this helps you see where problems are and make sure you're updating appropriately. Okay, so these are different ideas that I've tried to show you today on different things that you can do. And again, these automations can make a lot of difference. Okay, so it might take us, that auto logicking one was a little more, much more on the complicated side. So that might have taken us a day to 2 days, maybe, of programming and testing. And then some of these others can be small, like the counting one, we've done it many times. They might take 2 to 4 hours for us to build out. But if it saves 10, 20, 30 hours a month of scheduling time, it can well be worth exploring with your team. Okay, so I don't see any questions yet, so I'll stop the live demo, but if there is something you want to see, let me know. We can jump back in. Go back to the PowerPoint, and we can start wrapping up the session. as I mentioned, if you do have questions, just throw them at us, and Dan and I can tackle them. So I showed you real examples from real clients of things that they wanted us to help automate. And the thing is, once you've got P6-Calculator deployed, you definitely can just add new features, new functions, generally without any cost except for just some consulting to deploy it. So it can really benefit once you've got it within your team. So someone's asking if we can get the slides. We don't usually provide the slides. We will provide the presentation. You will get the recording. But if there's something particular that you want to see, definitely reach out and we will get working with you on that. Okay. So some of the benefits, some of the benefits. So of course, effort and efficiency. These are the things that P6-Calculator brings to the table. Significantly reducing manual work and making things automatic and easier to report on. Because ultimately that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to make sure we get the right people at the right place at the right time. And reporting and communication is key. So, and of course, as I mentioned, the reporting comes out of the mix. Very quickly, this is a huge benefit, and the visibility for KPIs and different formulas. So you might have different factors that you want to put in. So we could do formulas as well. So we had a client that had working interest because two different companies were providing funding, and it was not just to the project, it was to parts of the project. So we had different factors that we could do on the costing side. Okay, so lots and lots of different things can come out of the mix when you've got this. And accuracy is another big one that you can benefit. We had some clients that had full-time equivalent calculations and you feed into your safety reporting by the number of folks at the job site, etc. Okay, so we've done lots and lots of different things with the P6-Calculator, and that's why sometimes it kind of gets forgotten and not highlighted as much, but it is a wonderful tool, and we've deployed it in, as I mentioned, at electrical utilities with auto scheduling, contractors with foreign exchange rates, integrations for their units coming from their ERP with multiple different rates, different overhead and profit calculations. Very, very interesting stuff that you can do with some small automations inside of there. Now we've done, I will do more on foreign exchange rates in a full webinar in January, okay, because it is a hefty subject. And I mentioned the archiving. So we've done many different kinds of archiving. So it can be actual activities and or actual projects. So we've done different flavors of archiving. So definitely worth exploring if you want a more automated way to do archiving. Now the archiving can be archived into a different database as well. So that's another thing to explore. Or it can be archived just by removing it from P6, your production database. So we've got lots of flavors there. Okay, all right, so hopefully you saw something that was giving you food for thought on how we can help you. You may have certain things that you know your team does a lot on a weekly basis. And even if you're not sure whether Calculator could apply, it could be worth having an exploration chat to investigate that. Now, we have a great set of tools in our toolkit. I think it's the biggest, most robust on the marketplace related to P6. And it's because we've had programmers within our team from the very beginning. So we've done tremendous amount of integrations and automations, and our clients are fantastic. They are contributing to the building of these tools, and they get to share in other people's development. So we are allowed to continue to deploy new tools with some of these features. Not necessarily exactly the same, but they give you a good starting point. That's one of the great things that we've got in all of our tools, is that shared experience. So certainly if you have questions, go ahead and send those through. And if not, and they come up later, you think of them later, reach out to myself or Donna if she's more in your geographical location, and let us know if there's another way that we can reach out and explore things with you. So I'm just going to put this poll. If there is something that you do want us to reach out on, definitely just answer this poll question, and that helps us know how to reach out and